If you're like me, you check the news each morning with the worry that Donald Trump might have tweeted his way to the Third World War. So in some ways, the fact that all he did this morning was to retweet the worldview of a far-right extremist from the organization Britain First is something of a relief. At least we're not waking to gifs of mushroom clouds over Korea. But that is to take false comfort. That shouldn't be where we set the bar for the president of our closest ally. It is fair to say that all of us who spend too much time on social media have probably retweeted people we might not be aware of, or who have dubious views on other issues. If this were a one-off, I might give President Trump the benefit of the doubt. But it's not. Trump, from the beginning, throughout his campaign and since the election, has used hatred and bigotry to mobilize support. He's done so from calling Mexicans rapists to pledging a ban on all Muslims entering the country, to failing to disavow the neo-Nazis in Charlottesville. On Twitter he's retweeted far-right activists following Charlottesville, shared anti-Semitic memes against Hillary Clinton and shared content from @whiteagenocide@, an account featuring dozens of racist memes. In short, what his track record shows is that this isn't a mistake, it's a strategy. The impact of this strategy is to legitimize those driven by hatred. It makes them think that their views are mainstream, when in fact they are not, and makes those already driven by hatred more likely to act on it. When the President of the United States promotes the deputy leader of a far-right organization, it makes it easier for others to follow her example and perhaps go further. We know from the evidence that the environment matters for how and whether extremists act on their hatred. In more permissive environments they are more likely to take their hatred further, and where hatred is seen as socially unacceptable, they are less likely to act. That's why we rightly take on extreme Islamist propagandists advocating violence. It's why we worry about hate preachers, even when they stop just this side of actually advocating violence. But those hate preachers aren't only Islamists, they exist on the far right too. In short, what his track record shows is that this isn't a mistake, it's a strategy. Britain First is one such group of hate preachers, in this case dedicated to driving hatred chiefly against the Muslim community of our country. It was Jada Franson, its deputy leader, whose tweets of inflammatory videos were conveyed by the president to his 43.6M Twitter followers. Franson, as we know, as a figure more responsible than Trump would have found out, is facing charges of religiously aggravated harassment. We know how divisive that group has been, preying on vulnerable communities. We also know where that kind of poison can lead. So what now? How do we respond to the most powerful man in the world becoming a purveyor of hate? Perhaps, in the UK, Trump brings opportunities that we should seize on. A recent world study by Pew found people united in disavowal of the president. For instance, 75% of the British public had no confidence in Trump to do the right thing in world affairs, 89% saw him as arrogant, and 69% saw him as dangerous.